bites. Several demonstrators were arrested. White supremacists and Klansmen moved openly in the 10 South. A display of solidarity prompted, among other things, by an expected invasion of college students. The students planned to spend their vacations working for Negro voter registration, especially in Mississippi. There was tragedy. 3 rights workers disappeared. Their burnt-out car was discovered near Philadelphia, Mississippi. After 6 weeks, 3 bullet-riddled bodies were found buried in an earth dam. They were James Chaney, a Negro from Mississippi, and Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman, both white, from New York City. At Kennedy Airport in New York, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Goodman received the body of their son.
We decided to drive straight through because we knew we were in the South. And we had the car stocked with food, peanuts, cookies, soda, this sort of stuff. So the only thing we had to stop for was gas and to go to the restroom. Many theories pointing to the fact that it must have been something that we did in order to bring this incident about. It later came out in testimony that these fellows who shot Penn were riding around with the intention of trying to kill some black person.
Painful slowness, we in the United States have extended and enlarged the meaning and the practice of freedom to all of our people. For 2 centuries, my own country has struggled to overcome the self-imposed handicap of prejudice and discrimination based on nationality, on social class, or race, discrimination profoundly repugnant to the theory and to the command of our Constitution. Even as my father grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, signs told him no Irish need apply. 2 generations later, President Kennedy became the first Irish Catholic and the first Catholic to head the nation. But how many men of ability had, before 1961, been denied the opportunity to contribute to the nation's progress because they were Catholic or because they were of Irish extraction? How many sons of Italian or Jewish or Polish parents slumbered in the slums, untaught, unlearned, their potential lost forever to our nation and to the human race. Even today, what price will we pay before we have assured full opportunity to millions of Negro Americans? In the last 5 years, we have done more to assure equality to our Negro citizens and to help the deprived, both white and black, than in the 100 years before that time. But much, much more remains to be done, for there are millions of Negroes untrained for the simplest of jobs, and thousands every day denied their full and equal rights under the law. And the violence of the disinherited, the insulted, the injured, looms over the streets of Harlem and of Watts and of the South Side of Chicago.
We are planning during the course of this afternoon to send in several hundred more U.S. Marshals from around the country to help and assist. The number of the Marshals that are been there now haven't had much sleep in the last 48 hours, and it's to relieve that situation and also be available in case there are any other problems or difficulties as there was last evening.
How effective do you feel that the Marshals were in the action last night?
I don't think there's any question that they saved a number of lives and prevented widespread bloodshed.
All right, put them in there. Give me.
When lunch counters serve all customers, regardless of race, creed, or color, America passes another milestone in the pursuit of equality and justice for all.
This is a victory, and the dawn is dimly seen. Only dimly. This is not Montgomery, nor Monroe. This is Glendale, Queens, in the city of New York. A Negro mother speaks.
In order to get a better education for our children, we were ready, willing, and anxious to go to other schools. We had been asked that the parents not go to Glendale because of the tension from the parents in Glendale. The schools to which we were going, the parents of those schools did not want our children there.
Children from Bedford-Stuyvesant's overcrowded schools were being transferred to the spacious ones in Glendale.
Some of the parents did not send their children. However, the ones that were anxious for their children to get a good education, they didn't fear anything, because when you are anxious to achieve something, you forget about fear.
A reporter interviews some of the picketing mothers.
Do your children go to this school, ma'am?
No, they don't. They go to a religious school not far away.
Well, what is the reason for your presence on the picket line today?
I believe the children in the Bedford-Stuyvesant area deserve their own school. They shouldn't have to be bussed and used as pawns by politicians.
You, ma'am, how many? You have 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to keep them out?
I couldn't say that right now.
Did you keep them out today?
Yes.
What was the reason? Your reason?
I'm protesting the school transfer because they're bypassing underutilized schools. There's other schools they can put these children in. So there's no reason for this transfer.
Well, do you feel there are other schools in their own neighborhood?
That's right. These children shouldn't be shipped 3-4 miles.
Is there any hint of segregation in this present protest?
No, definitely not.
Is a southern city where department stores refuse lunch counter service to Negro students. Warnings of arrest, threats of jail terms, and violence all fail to put out what burns in the hearts and minds of the youngsters.
Is genuine, and those people stop spending that dollar there, man. Let him feel the hard economical hurt. Yeah. That's the...
If you don't leave, I'd have to have a warrant issued for your arrest and charge you trespassing.
I'm telling you, so
I told you you're not welcome in the store, all right? I'll just charge you for trespassing. I'll be right back for more in just a minute. Take care of it. Do you leave the store? You will not leave the store. You don't have to show a warrant for your arrest if you don't leave. Is that right? You understand that?
Yes.
Please stay out of this. I'm talking to her. Life is white trouble.
Meantime, we'll have to keep moving. You cannot block these out.
Same position these people are. If you don't leave, we'll get you moved now. Let's get you moved. We're not having this trouble with anybody, but charge you with trespassing. You go have the right to be here.
Okay, man. Okay.
Shall overcome. We shall overcome. We
They call us heathens. They call us animals. I mean, they ridicule us. Everywhere they go, they ridicule us, see? It's envy. We've come a long way with nothing, see? We get half the salary another man is getting. The same job, but half the salary, see?
That means a whole lot to know that you aren't in some mud hole trying to fight for something and nobody else gives it down, but that your fellow Negroes are with you, and that means an awful lot to anyone who's fighting for something, for an ideal.
I might be going out on a limb, but I do believe there is a lot of respect for this movement.
Hunter College students, sympathetic.
Rights.
Americans are free and sure to disagree with the law, but not to disobey it. For any government of laws and not of men, no man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law.
In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Where legal remedies are not at hand, redress is sought in the streets, in demonstrations, parades, and protests, which create tensions and threaten violence and threaten lives. We face, therefore, a moral crisis as a country and a people. We have a right to expect that the Negro community will be responsible, will uphold the law, but they have a right to expect that the law will be fair, that the Constitution will be colorblind, as Justice Harlan said at the turn of the century. This is what we're talking about, and this is a matter which concerns this country and what it stands for.
With its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
And if necessary, we must be willing to fill up the jails all over the state of Florida.
Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom, talking, marching up to freedom.
When men will seek to destroy the Church of God, they have degenerated to a tragic level of inhumanity and sin and evil.
The white people can't get no welfare. What I was supposed to get on welfare, I can't get it, but I'm a white man. They keep putting niggers, welfare people, keep putting niggers.
Meredith is formally enrolled at the University of Mississippi, ending one chapter in the federal government's efforts to desegregate the university. The town of Oxford is an armed camp, following riots that accompanied the registration of the first Negro in the university's 118-year history. Much of this film record was destroyed, and our cameraman, Gordon Yoder, was attacked, but he did salvage pictures of Governor Ross Barnett at the scene. The governor fought the court order long and bitterly before modifying his stand, saying Mississippi was overpowered by the federal government. President Kennedy appealed to the students and to the people of the state to comply peacefully with the law and bring the crisis to an end. Even as he talked, riots were breaking out in Oxford.
Americans are free and sure to disagree with the law, but not to disobey it. For any government of laws and not of men, no man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law. If this country should ever reach the point where any man or group of men, by force or threat of force, could long deny the commands of our court and our Constitution, then no law would stand free from doubt. No judge would be sure of his writ, and no citizen would be safe from his neighbors.
Nearly 6,000 troops patrol Oxford to maintain order, and arrests mount to more than 200 as smaller disturbances erupt the next day. Former Major General Edwin Walker, who came here from his home in Texas, is put under arrest, held in high bail on charges of inciting insurrection. He was flown to a federal prison hospital as relative calm settled on the town in the greatest crisis the South has faced since the Civil War.
I, for one, under God, will die before I'll yield 1 inch to that kind of a movement. They want to throw white children and colored children into the melting pot of integration, out of which will come a conglomerated, mulatto, mongrel class of people. Both races will be destroyed in such a movement. I, for one, under God, will die before I'll yield 1 inch to that kind of a movement in America.
Just 100 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves, 200,000 people converge on the nation's capital to rally for civil rights. They come by train, they come by bus and by air. They come from the north, the south, the east and west. They come united in one cause, to urge Congress to pass a civil rights bill to end forever the blight of racial inequity. This great throng with a cause gathers on the mall that stretches from the Washington Monument toward the Capitol. From the break of dawn, they filter into the city. By 9:30, it is estimated that 40,000 had assembled. But it's more like a Sunday outing as they form into groups and discuss the day quietly. They are scheduled to move to the Lincoln Memorial at noon to hear the top leaders of the movement. Those leaders, at the moment, are conferring on Capitol Hill with members of Congress, pointing up the aims of the rally. By 11:30, there are more than 200,000 thronging the mall, a crowd that is bigger than the most optimistic forecasts. Now there's a growing animation. It seems as if the demonstrators were finding strength in each other, had discovered their cause was a bond. The crowd became impatient to get started, and they moved toward the Lincoln Memorial before the scheduled hour. They move with good humor, laughter, and song. Few realize that in a sense they are participants in an historical day. It will become part of the American scene that today's gathering is the largest in Washington's history. The men who organized the rally walk with springing steps toward the speaker stand. On the left, Roy Wilkins with A. Philip Randolph. They have fought their fight all of their adult lives. In the van is Martin Luther King, who has been jailed 12 times on racial issues. Others on hand include Walter Reuther, head of the auto workers. Authorities were fearful of disorders, and there were 5,000 uniformed men on duty. They had little to do but keep dissident groups away from the rally. Arrests in Washington were below normal. Police attribute this to the fact that for the first time in 30 years, you couldn't even buy a beer in Washington. The civil rights marches needed no stimulants like that. They provided their own, with songs that ranged from the sacred to the hillbilly, but with the one recurring theme, the cause of 20 million Negroes. Assembled around the reflecting pool before the Lincoln Memorial occupies every inch on the lawns and under the trees, and there's a great swell of cheers to welcome Martin Luther King to the speaker's podium, a man who stands as a symbol of all they are fighting for. Later, Mr. King and the other leaders are to go to the White House, where the president said that everyone must be impressed with the demonstration of the throng's faith and confidence in our democratic form of government. However, he warned, there's a long fight ahead in Congress. The theme, the keynote, the thought uppermost in minds of all here today is best set forth by Dr. King. He sums up a day the Capitol will long remember.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
Washington, D.C., 1963. Democracy speaks in a mighty voice.
A giant step toward dignity and full participation in American life and affairs was taken by the American Negro in the capital of the United States on the day of August 28, 1963. The step was taken solemnly and in union with many of their white countrymen. The footstep of the march in Washington was firm, with a quiet purpose and a mannerly rhythm. It aroused, even in dissenters, a larger awareness of the right of the Negroes as Americans to share equally not only the sun and air so clear and free on the day of their march, but their right as Americans to share opportunity and privilege as well. America has known this intellectually for a long time. For 100 years by history's calendar. On August 28th, America learned this emotionally, with clarity more penetrating than intellect. Every kind and class, every generation of America participated. If not in the city of Washington, across the land by television, America mutely attended the feeling of the march and heard the all-encompassing cry for freedom from indignity. America heard back into the miles of her history to Lincoln, Jefferson, Tom Paine, Patrick Henry. Everybody attended the march in Washington of August 28th. In this city that has a massive traffic problem even in normal times, traffic had been rerouted and acres of space had been reserved for the buses that brought the thousands of visiting demonstrators.
We'd like to sing a song. Hammer in the morning, hammer in the evening.
Momentum for the march began slowly. By 11:30 a.m., a mounting tide of children, students, parents, grandparents, placards and banners held aloft, were walking down the wide avenue named in honor of the Constitution of the country. No attempt was made or thought given to strict lines of marching. The mood of the day was serious, but relaxed. 200,000 strong, they marched in the largest demonstration for civil rights in the history of the United States. Catholics, Protestants, and Jews, the humble and the famous, Westerners, Northerners, and Southerners. A cross-section of the 50 states were represented as they progressed along the avenue, loosely grouped together by states or organizations or busloads. Some arrived by roller skates, some by train and plane. Some drove private automobiles 30, 50 miles. All now walk to the memorial site preserved in honor of Abraham Lincoln. They walk to express to the nation in a peaceful fashion their rights to freely assemble and be heard, as spelled out in the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment requires that the government not only refrain from interference with peaceful assemblies, it must restrain the restrainers as well. The Boston Tea Party led off a long chain of effective social protests in America. The suffragette demonstrations spread to many cities before their cause was victorious. And the struggles of American labor were traditionally advertised through the right to peacefully assemble and be heard. A renowned American jurist recently said, "A function of free speech under our system is to invite dispute. It may strike at prejudices and preconceptions and have profound unsettling effects as it presses for acceptance of an idea."
We're going to walk together. We're going to stand together. We're going to sing together. We're going to stay together. We're going to moan together. We're going to groan together. And after a while, we'll say, freedom, freedom, freedom now.
I give you Mr. Burt Lancaster.
All Americans traveling no matter where in the world today are in the position of ambassadors and are very often made bitterly aware of our country's reputation. It is not easy to be an American abroad, nor is it easy to make coherent to those who are not Americans the nature and the meaning of our struggle. And we are therefore forever indebted to those Americans represented by the March on Washington movement for giving us so stunning an example of what America aspires to become, and for helping us to redefine, in the middle of this dangerous century, what is meant by the American Revolution. We recognize that it is not only in America that the battle for freedom and dignity of peoples is being waged. The struggle toward freedom on the part of the previously subjugated is occurring in capitals and villages all over the world. It is on our awareness of what this struggle means and in the degree of our dedication to it that our future and the future of the world depends.
"150 members of the Congress of the United States arrived at the rally to add their support, and the support of the people of the states they represent to the spirit of the March in Washington.
Some of you to help me win a bet. I want everybody out here in the open to keep quiet. And I want to hear a yell and a thunder from all those people who are out there under the trees. Let's hear you. One of them in the tree. Let us bow our heads in prayer. God of history and of all mankind, God of Abraham and Moses, Amos and Isaiah, Jesus and Paul, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, pour out thy benediction upon the United States of America. Pour it out upon President Kennedy.
As the Freedom Marchers remained at the monument grounds to close their demonstration in prayer, their leaders moved on to the White House to meet with President Kennedy. The President's active concern with the progress for the Negro in housing, education, and employment is well known.
One who has conducted a massive moral campaign in the southern area of the nation against the citadel of racism, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. I would simply like to say that I think this has been one of the great days of America. And I think this march will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, demonstrations for freedom and human dignity ever held in the United States.
The slumbering conscience of America stood aroused, tall and awakened, as twilight fell over the March in Washington of August 28th. It admitted a lingering sense of shame. It admitted pain had been overlooked. In so doing, America reminded herself of her destiny, her aspirations, the dream which brought forth her birth. And America turned her eyes full upon the issues of freedom and justice, issues for all. She turned her attention to the Civil Rights Bill before the Congress, which is currently under examination.
Profoundly hope that the tragedy and the torment of these terrible days will bind us together in new fellowship, making us one people in our hour of sorrow. So let us here highly resolve that John Fitzgerald Kennedy did not live or die in vain.
To which I was born 57 years ago this month.
Here the seeds were planted from which grew my firm conviction. It is the obligation of your nation to provide and permit and assist every child born in these borders to receive all the education that they can take.
One of the presidents that I admire most signed the Emancipation Proclamation 100 years ago. But emancipation was a proclamation and was not a fact. And it shall be my purpose, and it is my duty to make it a fact.
As a man whose roots go deeply into Southern soil, I know how agonizing racial feelings are. But really, it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And we shall overcome.
Marking 1964 as a historic year in race relations, on July 2nd, President Johnson signed into law the Civil Rights Act. It was the strongest federal law since the slaves were freed a century ago. One of the Negro leaders behind the bill, Dr. Martin Luther King, received 1964's Nobel Prize for Peace, recognition for his effective use of nonviolent resistance, a technique which nevertheless netted King a dozen arrests for violation of Jim Crow laws. Arrested on similar charges was Mrs. Malcolm Peabody, mother of the governor of Massachusetts.
I tried to talk to you the first night I was here, Sunday night. We've learned a lot since that time, and I've learned a lot about how you people can go into this thing, and I don't lose heart now, because you're the ones on whom this movement rests.
But violence proved inevitable. In Maryland, police dogs used to disperse a more unruly demonstration inflicted many bites. Several demonstrators were arrested. White supremacists and Klansmen moved openly in the 10 South. A display of solidarity prompted, among other things, by an expected invasion of college students. The students planned to spend their vacations working for Negro voter registration, especially in Mississippi. There was tragedy. 3 rights workers disappeared. Their burnt-out car was discovered near Philadelphia, Mississippi. After 6 weeks, 3 bullet-riddled bodies were found buried in an earth dam. They were James Chaney, a Negro from Mississippi, and Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman, both white, from New York City. At Kennedy Airport in New York, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Goodman received the body of their son. Midsummer brought to the sweltering Negro areas of the North a new phase of racial relations. In Harlem, the funeral of a teenager who had been shot by a policeman set off demonstrations against alleged police brutality. The demonstrations rapidly degenerated into wanton looting and rioting. The violence spread like plague to other northern Negro communities. In Rochester, New York, gangs of youths who had taken virtual control of portions of the city were not subdued until squads of state police moved in to assist local officers. Racial awareness in 1964 had reached deep into the subconscious of white and Negro alike, revealing unsuspected depths of bitterness.
General Motors is negotiating. In July, race riots broke out. A demonstration against police in Newark erupted into 4 days of violence. Arson was widespread. Snipers shot at firemen and police. The Springfield Avenue shopping district was sacked. Hundreds were arrested, 30 killed. Governor Hughes called the National Guard to restore order. Bad weather as much as firepower ended the riot. week later in Detroit, rioting, 40 more dead. Damage ran over $1 billion. President Johnson ordered federal troops to bring peace to the city.
Looting, murder, and arson have nothing to do with civil rights. They are criminal conduct.
As elections approached, there was talk of white backlash. But in Cleveland, Carl Stokes, a Negro, was elected mayor. And in Gary, Indiana, Richard Hatcher.
We have won a great victory. Tell the truth. Let's make it an even greater victory. Tell the truth. By conducting ourselves in an orderly way. Never before have I ever known, to the extent that I know tonight, the full meaning of the words, God bless America.
In that
Johnson. These forces should be adequate to assure the rights of American citizens pursuant to a federal court order to walk peaceably and safely without injury or loss of life from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama.
Pick 'em up and lay 'em down. Right, right. Pick 'em up and lay 'em down. Right, right. Pick 'em up and lay 'em down. Right, right.
I think the greatest victory of this period was not in terms of an external factor or an external development, but it was something internal. The real victory was what this period did to the psyche of the black man. The greatness of this period was that we armed ourselves with dignity and self-respect. The greatness of this period was that we straightened our backs up. And a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. Last Sunday, more than 8,000 of us started on a mighty walk from Selma, Alabama. They told us we wouldn't get here. There were those who said that we would get here only over their dead bodies. Well, talk. But all the world today knows that we are here and we are standing before the forces of power in the state of Alabama saying we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. That one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
The following year, King
Congress passes the most sweeping civil rights bill ever to be written into the law. and thus reaffirms the conception of equality for all men that began with Lincoln and the Civil War 100 years ago. The Negro won his freedom then. He wins his dignity now. 5 hours after the House passes the measure, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is signed at the White House by President Johnson. Before an audience of legislators and civil rights leaders who had labored long and hard for passage of the bill, President Johnson calls for all Americans to back what he calls a turning point in history.
We must not approach the observance and enforcement of this law in a vengeful spirit. Its purpose is not to punish. Its purpose is not to divide, but to end divisions, divisions which have lasted all too long. Its purpose is national, not regional. This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country. So, tonight I urge every public official, every religious leader, every business and professional man, every working man, every housewife, I urge every American to join in this effort to bring justice and hope to all our people and to bring peace to our land.
There's warm applause from members of both parties as the president sets to work. It is work. He uses nearly 100 pens to affix his signature and date. Souvenirs go to Republican leader Everett Dirksen and Democratic whip Hubert Humphrey. The president seems to have mastered the art of just touching each pen to the paper. Integration leader Martin Luther King receives his pen, a gift he said he would cherish. The Department of Justice will enforce the law if necessary, and G-Man Chief J. Edgar Hoover is present. Another group of pens is reserved for the Kennedys, and the Attorney General is entrusted with a half dozen. Now, in this summer of 1964, the Civil Rights Bill is the law of the land. In the words of the President, it restricts no one's freedom so long as he respects the rights of others.
A bright chapter in the course of human events was written with the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. It was an historic occasion as President Johnson signed it into law.
This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country.
President Johnson signed the measure just 5 hours after the House had passed it. He used nearly 100 pens, and one was given to Nobel Prize winner Dr. Martin Luther King, distinguished leader of the movement.
Ultimate aim is to bring about a change in the very structure of Alabama laws with reference to voter registration. And we look forward in the not-too-distant future to having all of these people on the books as registered voters.
Wherever there is discrimination, this law will strike down all restrictions used to deny the people the right to vote. It will establish a simple, uniform standard which cannot be used, however ingenious the effort to flaunt our Constitution. And if state officials refuse to cooperate, then citizens will be registered by federal officials. Wherever, by clear and objective standards, states and counties are using regulations or laws or tests to deny the right to vote, then they will be struck down.
Let me shake your hand.
All right, glad to see you, sir. Fine, you all right. Keep the ball rolling. Fine.
Go on, nigga!
You cover up. You'll try to keep...
As in all of King's civil rights campaigns, volunteers were trained in both the philosophy and technique of nonviolent resistance. This training proved useful as demonstrations and registration attempts were met with mass arrests. Then, in nearby
Negroes made inroads towards integration of schools in the Deep South for the first time in 1960. In New Orleans, white students and their parents shouted and demonstrated against it. The state fought it in the courts. But in mid-November, the New Orleans School Board complied with the federal court order, admitted 4 Negro girls to the first grade in 2 schools. White parents promptly removed their children from the schools, effected an almost 100% boycott. 2, 4, 6, 8. We don't want to integrate, they yelled. Governor Davis and the legislature tried one legal device after another to prevent or stop the integration. But the federal judiciary countered each new move. Federal deputy marshals escorted the Negro girls and a few white children to and from school. Segregationists hurled stones at the white parents' houses, caused some fathers to lose their jobs. Most white parents either transferred their children to private schools or set up makeshift classes for them in private homes. But the order to integrate stood, and despite action taken by the state or individuals, school integration came to the Deep South in 1960.
Might have taken generations. The opportunity came almost by accident, the accomplishment through trial and error. But the element that had never been missing in King's life was an awareness of the Negro's problem. Martin Luther King, Jr. was born January 15, 1929, in a comfortable most of 1957, 58, and 59 in his Montgomery pulpit. The civil rights picture of those years was one of violence, of segregationists lashing out in resentment at the school desegregation decision. The names in the news were names like Little Rock and Clinton, Tennessee. Somewhere outside the picture was Dr. King, speaking, traveling, but seldom making news as a leader. On September 3rd, 1958, attack only after thorough preparation. The threat of racial trouble already had Birmingham in turmoil. Albert Baltwell was running for mayor as a moderate segregation business leaders on May 10th. King had been promised most of what he wanted. Now Birmingham had 2
segregation. Mixed groups of whites and blacks, mostly students, challenged segregation on interstate buses and places of public accommodation throughout the South. The sit-ins and freedom rides were a new version of an old and respected American tradition, the right to protest for right, and resulted in the first attempts at federal civil rights legislation. The next target of the civil rights movement was Birmingham, Alabama, in 1963, the most segregated city in the nation, and for blacks, a place to die if you tried to be a person.
I will not rest
Hospitals in which the surgeons we saw earlier are not allowed to practice. And in some states, we are still restricted by signs like these. Later in this film, we shall see some of the ways in which the situation is changing. But first, let us ask a cross-section of...
We're trying to do about it, but...
These students are typical of many throughout the country, both Negro and white, who have been effective in breaking the barriers of segregation. Sense the confidence and dedication of these young people as they discuss their plans.
Talking about
White travelers in the South. From all over the country, mixed groups traveling by bus entered the South. They entered segregated waiting rooms and restaurants in many southern cities. In some, they were arrested, but they were determined to succeed even if it meant going to jail. Negroes were jailed for entering white waiting rooms. Whites were jailed for entering Negro waiting rooms. Over 300 freedom riders went to jail. Nearly half of those were white. Nearly half were women. Once again, the principles of nonviolence proved their effectiveness. For an evaluation of the freedom rides, we asked James Farmer, National Director of the Congress of Racial Equality.
Rarely an American issued a ruling which went into effect on November 1st, ordering that all the segregation signs must come down in the terminals and that in their place must be posted desegregation signs.
How is it that these events have
is now under martial law, and troops are on the way into Montgomery.